Good evening. I'd like to call to order the July, what is today's date? 10th public hearing for the City of Tampa's Architectural Review Commission. Welcome, everyone. I'm Brent Taylor. I'm Vice Chair of the Commission. Tonight I'll be acting as Chair. If you are here to present, you will have a limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. If the commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, and wall sections. The staff will then present the staff report. We will then ask for public comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as the presentation. Please state and spell your name clearly. If you are here to speak for or against a project, your time will be limited to 3 minutes. So take some time now to summarize your comments, because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following public comment, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. The only comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based on the city ordinance, Chapter 27 of the city zoning code, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, the Historic Preservation Development Review, or HPDRC comments, and the testimony given at the public hearing. The ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owners, agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and/or approvals. If you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phones. All right, now I'll take the time to introduce all commissioners. We'll start here on our left.
My name is John Prokop, and I practice architecture.
My name is Dan Myers. I also am an architect.
My name is Stephen Sutton. I am also an architect. I also hold the architectural historian chair for this board.
And I'm Brent Taylor. I'm a general contractor, vice chair of the commission. I'd also like to introduce at this time our staff. We have with us tonight Dennis Fernandez, Ron Vila, Elaine Lund, Alexis Guzman, and our attorney, Kamaria Pettis-Mackel. We need to get approval on our minutes from last month. We have a motion to approve those.
I move that we accept as presented the meeting minutes for the Monday, June 5th, 2023, and the Wednesday, June 7th, 2023, Architectural Review Commission public hearings.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. All right, this time we've got Dennis Fernandez to give any announcements.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dennis Fernandez, Architectural Review and Historic Preservation Manager. Welcome to this evening's public hearing, and welcome to our applicants and to the public as well. We will be having the second part of our cases for July at the Wednesday, July 12th public hearing at 5:30 p.m. So we're just handling part of the application cycle at this evening's hearing. Also for this evening, I do have the June staff approvals, which are going to be entered into the record, and we'll do a motion for those at the end of the meeting. And in your packets are some couple of flyers for different events that are occurring this week. It is Archives Awareness Week. It's the 136th birthday for the City of Tampa's incorporation, beginning in July 15th of 1887. So 136 years, and there's a number of celebrations that are going on this week, and you have a pamphlet in your packet that will kind of go over those. And anyone interested can also visit the City of Tampa website at tampagov.net. With that, I think we're ready for the disclosure of conflicts of interest and ex parte communication, and our legal counsel will handle that.
Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the Legal Department. Will the commissioners please state whether or not they've had any conflicts of interest regarding any of the items that are listed on the agenda?
I have
I have
none.
none.
Thank you. Furthermore, will the commissioners please state on the record whether or not they've had any ex parte communications regarding any of the items that are on the agenda?
None.
None.
Okay, thank you.
With that, we do not have any continuations for you to act upon this evening, so we'll move to the swear-in. Anyone in the audience who's going to be presenting this evening or giving testimony, if you could please stand and raise your right hand for the swear-in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And with that, we are ready for the first case, ARC 22-180, and Ms. Lund will introduce you to that case.
Good evening, Commissioners. Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. The first item you're hearing tonight is for case ARC number 22-180 at 506 East Mohawk Avenue in the Seminole Heights Historic District. The request is for a variance for a 4-foot-high wood front yard fence. This is a variance, so there is no staff report or staff findings or recommendation for this request. It is a finding of fact for you to decide amongst yourselves. I will, however, go ahead and give you a photo presentation to orient you with the property before the applicant presents the request. So we're looking here at the location map of the Seminole Heights Historic District. This map shows you the boundaries of the National Historic District in blue, and the local historic district boundaries are shown in red. The location of the subject property is in green, about midway up the district. This is the 1920s Sanborn map of the district. You can see the parcel again shown in green along Mohawk Avenue between Central Avenue and Cherokee Avenue. You can see the outline of the local historic district in red. Today, that particular part of the district there just east of Cherokee is shown just east of Cherokee Avenue. To the east of the site is where the Interstate 275 runs through the city of Tampa. There we go. This is looking at the subject site. We're looking at it from the south, so this is the south elevation of the property and the front yard where the fence has been constructed. This is looking to the at the east side of the property. And this is looking where you can see the west side of the house, so we're looking a little to the northeast here in that general direction. Moving around to the back of the house, you can see the rear yard and where the rear yard fence is located. And this is the garage at the subject site. Looking directly to the west, this is a view from Mohawk to the corner lot, which actually faces Central Avenue. This is looking across the street into the parking lot for the, I believe, a hair salon that is across the street. You're looking at the back side of the Starbucks that's on Central and Hillsborough Avenues there. This view is looking east along Mohawk Avenue towards Cherokee. And beyond that would be the I-275. And this is the view looking west along Mohawk towards Central Avenue, and the subject property would be to your right. This is the view looking north along the alley, which runs directly to the east of the subject site, and then the view south in the alley looking back toward Mohawk Street. And that concludes the photo presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. Once again, Dennis Fernandez, Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Manager. Just to give you some context for the review this evening, Some of you may recall that this request came before you last year in the form of a certificate of appropriateness review. Within the Seminole Heights design guidelines, it does prohibit front yard fences located in the front, which would be beyond the front setback of the house towards the street. Fence installation is an assignment that's delegated to the staff. However, with these types of requests, it goes beyond the staff's authority to review. When this came through originally in July of 2022, it was denied, and an appeal was filed subsequently before City Council. In reviewing this internally with different administrative agencies, we determined that the nature of this request really should have been processed with the ability of the applicant to request a variance to the design guidelines for the portion that prohibits front yard fences. So we've been working with the applicant to come back through the process with a variance request. So that would be your powers and duties under 27-114D, just as you have considered other types of variance requests and granting and consideration of variances. You would apply that criteria to this request and not the criteria of a certificate of appropriateness. So in that particular section, it does guide the ARC to grant variances in cases where the ARC expressly finds that the applicant has demonstrated a practical difficulty or an unnecessary hardship exists, and the request ensures the public safety and general welfare. So with that, I'd like to invite the applicant to the dais and to present her case and her hardship. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Wareham. I live at 506 East Mohawk Avenue. This is my presentation. My name is spelled Cecilia Wareham. This is my partner, Michael Toscani. Spell your name.
Michaeltuscani.
So we both reside at the residence. This is to explain the hardship of our location. So here's just a picture of the home. Elaine kind of already went over that. This is the survey, just kind of giving some boundary information and whatnot. We'll go through these pretty quick. This just shows our home in relation to all the commercial businesses in the surrounding area.
You can see the uniqueness. We kind of showed this, the overview, the uniqueness of the home here with it being surrounded by the commercial properties. You can see there's an abandoned building, and then the proximity to the interstate, and then the off-ramp. You showing the mouse? Yeah. So then you can see where the external hardship we're talking about here is that a lot of the homeless people, they panhandle here at the intersection here, and then with the abandoned building and the commercial properties here, they congregate into this private property area here, and you can see it's generally close to the home.
Right, so the salon that Elaine mentioned earlier, that's the main area where the homeless people like to sleep, eat. There's been prostitution over there. It's basically just a breeding ground for the homeless. I'm not sure, I'll run through this pretty quick, but this is just a drone video, which I don't really need to go over much since she already went over a lot of it, but that's the fence right there. That's where a lot of this takes place. This is kind of a video up above showing the area, and as you can see, there's a homeless person in there as I took this. Here's just some pictures of what we're talking about. They're constantly walking through there, doing a lot of drugs. This was actually taken from a camera I have placed up above the area because they're constantly back there, but there was prostitution going on when I took that photo. This man, can you explain that?
Yeah, well, a lot of these photos are taken from the front porch of the house. This man in the bottom corner here, he was actually arrested. This was the one time the police actually did something about this issue. He was actually throwing things at the properties.
The salon.
Yeah, he was throwing stuff at the salon where he's like hanging out right there. one of the guidelines to the power lines. He was actually trying to pull it down and everything, so the cops actually did come and eventually arrest this person, because he did actually walk down right next to our property and walk down that alley. That's where they eventually arrested him.
This is just another location across from the fence that they like to hide and hang out. Here's actually a video of me. Oh no, sorry, this isn't the video of me. This is the man outside, who you can see is highly impaired. Then this was taken from our front porch. And this is what we deal with on a daily basis.
This is just doing yard work outside, and then this just ends up happening. Skip a little forward, it gets closer.
What? I can't zoom in.
Oh, no, I was gonna say skip a little ahead.
Oh, okay. So, and then as we're recording, he proceeds to eventually go down the alley that we've shown you numerous times.
It's actually a private property shared between those two, so they're not only doing whatever you could think of.
Crap. I'm sorry.
But they're actually trespassing on private property there as well.
Right, so he goes right behind the fence area here into, I took a picture of it later, but that's where he was hiding out. So he kind of stumbles along, and then he eventually goes underneath the fence area. So here's another video. I sped it up for time purposes. You can clearly see this man is in front of my home, and remind you, I have children in my home who do see this. But this is taken from our porch, and he's clearly injecting drugs. Moving on, here is another video of two men doing drugs right outside the home. Again, you can see my fence is right here. And this is sped up for time purposes. But they're just sitting there in broad daylight, injecting. Okay, moving on. This is me actually outside doing yard work. I'm gonna skip past the front here. And as I'm coming in, I came in because I saw this guy come down the little alleyway there, and he stops and is asking me for money, and I clearly tell him no. But this is what we get all the time. People that are impaired coming up to us as we're outside doing our own thing. They're constantly coming up to us.
Using the fence as a barrier
Right.
to come inside.
Yeah, so it's definitely used as protection, in my opinion. This is just a couple videos of more people sleeping in Ginger's front yard, or I'm sorry, in the parking lot. This just shows a man who was sleeping there with all his stuff, and about 4, 5, 6 police officers came out. They eventually arrested him. He became aggressive with police. This is when I was sitting outside on my patio. There was another homeless person outside, clearly smoking some kind of substance right in front of our home as usual. Sorry, it's so pixelated. Here's just some video real quick of me coming home, and as I was coming home, there were 3 homeless people just sitting at the edge, or at the end of the street, where they like to, oh wait, where'd the other video go? Oh, okay, sorry, that's another person just sleeping on at the end there, and it shows you the relation to the home. This is actually a video that I took of an intruder in my backyard at 3 a.m. when I was home alone. He decided to come into my backyard, was peeking through my windows, and eventually decided to take a nap on my patio. He was highly impaired. Numerous police officers came out and filed this against him. And here's the original complaint of the fence, which if you look here at the bottom, all it mentions is that this is what happens when you approve too big of a house on half of a lot. This is more, it doesn't really have much to do with the fence in itself. It's more focused on the home, and she doesn't seem to be happy that our home is where it is. That seems to be her real issue, not the fence. But other than that, there's no other neighbors that have complained about our fence.
Yeah, if you show the next slide, you see there's
So we have these support letters, which I may have read already, but we have quite a few of them. And then at the end here, we took this from the city guidelines where you know,
Actually, Tampa, we just put this in here because Tampa does define the purpose of having a fence. And if you read in the highlighted area, it's for protection of property, which we've obviously shown, and then the assurance of safety and security. We just wanted to add that in there. I think it kind of shows the
sums up what we're trying to present here today.
the hardship, the external hardship that we don't have any control over. And the reason for having the fence there is just to help with the protection. So thank you guys for your time. We appreciate it.
That's it.
Do we want them to go through the hardship?
Just for process-wise, they want you to go through these and just kind of summarize each answer to the questions, the 6 questions.
Okay, so basically, this just states that the hardship that we're dealing with specifically is due to all the commercial buildings surrounding my home. There are no other residences down that street. It's just mine. And with that being said, the homeless population, that is just a perfect breeding ground for them to gather and do all of their things. So number 2, the variance is not self-created. I obviously didn't create this or bring this upon myself. This is due to, circumstances I have no control over. Number 3, it doesn't interfere with the health, safety, or welfare of others. If anything, it provides safety. Number 4, the intent for this chapter, equity. So yeah, it basically just says that it would provide relief when challenged by the unusual and extraordinary conditions. It basically, like I already mentioned, it provides a safety precaution towards the homeless population. And yeah, I think that it's just to provide us with the approval just because we are tax-paying citizens. And it doesn't seem fair to me that as a tax-paying citizen, that the city isn't supporting me in what am I trying to say? In my search for basically protection. It seems to me reasonable that the board would grant us the approval for the fence based on the circumstances provided.
Okay, thank you. Now, this time, I guess we'll ask questions.
Do you want to see if there's any public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Do we have anyone here for public comment on this particular case? All right, seeing no one, now we can ask our questions. We'll start here with on the far left here with Commissioner Prokop.
I'll withhold my questions until after the rest of you guys ask questions.
You have any questions?
I will reserve any possible questions for later.
To the applicant, do you have any particular evidence of front yard fences in the Seminole Heights Historic District in proximity to your property site, or for that matter in any other particular location? Generally speaking, the design guidelines prohibit fences, but then of course there is the matter of existing fences when the guidelines are put into place.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with that.
Kamaria Pettisnago from the City Attorney's Office. Commissioner Sutton, this is here on your agenda for a variance request. So it's the applicant's burden to determine the hardship criteria that's unique and singular to her property. So I would encourage the commission to focus on whether or not the applicant has met the hardship criteria as outlined in your staff report that's mentioning Code Section 27-114.
I understand.
Okay.
I do actually have a quite a bit of evidence regarding other fencing in the community within the historic district that I have laid out on my original presentation here, where I've actually circled all of the houses that I could find, which were numerous. If you want me to pull that up, I think I still have it on here. Do you want?
If you would please.
Okay. I hope I put it on the first one. Why didn't it go? Oh, don't press anything. Okay, so it's opening.
Oh, yes, it's opening, and it's just going slow.
I guess. Not sure why it's taking so long.
I think you should be able to help us. We're just trying to open another PowerPoint on there. I don't know if it's trying to right now or not.
Stuck. Where's it? Okay, which,
Okay, so I already went into the file and tried to open it.
which one, that one?
That one. Is that the original? No, it's not the original.
Good. No, it keeps,
It's not the original. No.
something's going on.
What if we exit it out of this
Yeah,
PowerPoint and try to
Okay.
open the other one?
Maybe Control Delete.
You worked before?
I mean, it had
A year
before.
ago.
It may not be,
Maybe not open?
yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can't get the file open.
But I did provide all of that last time, a year ago, when I did my original presentation. I had pictures of the homes along with the map description of them.
Thank you very much.
And a lot of them, by the way, were like chain link fences. Oh, yes, perfect.
Oh, there
Okay.
you go, thank you.
Yes, I'm not sure if you're able to see these. So those are a few of the homes.
Those are all within the
All
historic
within the
district?
historic district. The map I specifically provided showed on the map their location. And then here are some additional ones. As you can see, a lot of them are just chain link fences, which I don't think goes along with the historic district in my opinion, but it's just my opinion.
Any more questions?
Not at this time, thank you.
While they've got that up, I have, I guess, a couple of questions for staff. And one is, are these in fact in the Seminole Heights district?
Hi, Dennis Fernandez, Architecture and Historic Preservation Manager. I'm not familiar with all these by sight. There are some front yard fences that are in the district that predate the district's creation. There may be, there may be other ones that were done in violation, I'm not sure. I do want to kind of try to guide the conversation back to hardship and not appropriateness, which this particular, evidence kind of goes towards. So just to kind of stay focused on the hardship criteria and the evidence that's been presented to you this evening.
All right, so with that said, because we are here for the location of the fence on this particular property, some of my questions are, I guess, somewhat difficult, but when did you actually buy this property?
I bought it December 2021.
And were you aware of these issues at the time?
Oh, yeah, with the homeless population, yes. But I was under the impression you did not need a permit for fencing, which is why I installed the fence.
Okay. And can you pull up your site plan just so we can kind of get a layout of how you've got not only the front yard fence, but I want to see the rear yard as well, just,
Sure. So the original survey is like here. So I think this does a better job of showing the fence. Right, Elaine? Okay. So the green is going to be the 4-foot front yard fence here. And then I have a 6-foot similar fence back in the, on the side towards the rear of the home. And then the blue is going to be a neighboring fence, which the backyard neighbors have.
Which was existing, that's the
Right.
actual neighbor's fence.
Mm-hmm.
so you mentioned even in the rear yards, you had trouble with someone coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Did they go over the fence?
Did they what?
Did they go over the fence?
No.
No, they actually went through that back gate, which we normally lock.
Right.
And that night she did not lock it, and he actually just came right in.
Right.
Okay.
And hence, the front fence is able to be locked as well. We actually keep the lock out there. We just take it off during the day so the mailman can come in and out.
Okay, and so by you building this fence without permission, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
that also tells me that you must not have gone to the building department and pulled any sort of permit there. And there may not be a permit needed, I'm not really sure,
I
but
don't think there is a permit for the city of
Right.
Tampa. I don't believe you need a
I
permit
see
for a
Kamaria
fence.
reaching for,
There's not. And I called too, and they said no.
okay.
Just reminder that we're not here about a
No,
permit.
no, I get
Yeah,
that, I'm just
okay.
trying to get an idea of kind of how we got here. So I think that's all I have for now as far as my questions. Did you have anything else?
This is a question for staff. Is there a permit or any kind of, how is one to discover what the requirements are? Again, when one purchases a property in a historic district, there's no notification from the city. Is that correct, Mr. Fernandez?
There should be notation within the closing documents that there's restrictions for a historic district when you are closing on a house.
Okay.
However, a permit is not required for a fence in the city of Tampa that is of a code compliant nature. Within the city of Tampa, you can actually have front yard fences up to 4 feet high, depending on the design. However, that requirement is prohibited in the historic district, in Seminole Heights Historic District. Other historic districts allow front yard fences, like Ybor City, where there's a pattern of them. That's delineated in the Seminole Heights guidelines.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, I have one other question. The granting of a variance allows a permanent installation, and there is no way for us to grant a temporary variance, is that correct?
That is correct. You cannot grant a temporary, once you approve a variance, it runs with the land.
Right. Thank you.
You have any questions, Commissioner Prokop? Anyone else?
I have no further question.
All right, if there's no further questions, then you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
I think we've kind of shown you guys in the video and the presentation, the hardship.
Yeah.
I think when she was talking, you asked her if she knew about the homeless population beforehand. When we saw the house, I don't think, we did not know that
Yeah.
that was an issue beforehand.
I
When
would
we
have
were-
never moved there.
When you go buy a house, you see it maybe 3 times before you ever actually live in it. That was never an issue beforehand. So,
Right.
I think we just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I did
But,
that.
when we did have a fencing company come, put in a fence, never heard anything about front yard fences, you can't have it or anything,
Right. They
until
even did-
somebody actually put in the official complaint, and as you guys saw, they're more upset that the house was built as opposed to the fence, you know? So that's why we're here now asking for variance.
And I did actually specifically ask the fence company numerous times after the fact, after I learned that it wasn't, you weren't able to have a front yard fence. I asked them why they even installed it, and they were like, you don't need a permit in Tampa to do front yard fences. We do them all the time. So we had absolutely no idea. And I also wanted to point out too that I believe that the look of the fence is, I would say, definitely goes in line with the historic guidelines more than any of these other fences that are in the area. It is a wood fence, which the Tampa guidelines states is most appropriate as a front yard fence. So that's basically all I have.
I think too, we've shown the hardship, and I think, no, I don't have.
I have an additional question for staff.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I know.
If he has an additional question, that's fine, they will just be entitled to.
Okay. I think we haven't closed it, so go for it.
Okay. Question for staff, are they allowed a hedge? It's,
So this is, again, this is Kamaria Pettis-Mackel for the record. This is not about a certificate of appropriateness, about a design of any of the fence or anything like that. This is just whether or not they presented evidence to prove a hardship for the fence in the front yard.
Yes.
This is all that's before you.
okay.
So just as a footnote, the Architecture Review Commission does not have jurisdiction over landscaping of 1 and 2 family homes. So they could landscape as they desire.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the footnote.
Okay.
Yes, and now you have 5 more minutes for rebuttal, if you need it.
So I would like to say that hedges, I don't agree that hedges would do the job that we're looking for, which is specifically it's to maintain security and protection. I don't think hedging is exactly the same as what we're trying to accomplish today for the fence. You can't lock it.
The times that we have been approached by the people in the neighborhood and everything, the fence does actually create a
Right.
barrier. They actually do come up to the fence instead of being able to come all the way up to the front porch or up to the front door or whatever they would want to. They actually do stop at the fence. It does create that physical, mental barrier for them. Also, too, you could see she kind of escaped into the fence. If somebody were to come and try to do something, at least you have that extra few seconds to maybe get into the house because they have to either open the fence, get in it, jump over it, anything like that.
And I would just like to say that when there is that type of homeless population, it's not just that they're homeless people. They're highly impaired homeless people under the influence of significant drugs. So their behavior is often belligerent, unpredictable, erratic. You just don't know what they're capable of doing. So I just feel like this is appropriate in this.
Yeah, that's just why we're here.
Yeah.
That's it for us.
Okay. All right, well, at this time, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for discussion among the commissioners.
Ordinarily, I'm not a big fan of variances, usually when they spring out of some manner of self-inflicted matter. However, it's not like I have to point this out to my fellow commissioners, but the first item under alleged hardships respect the unique and singular matter of that hardship with respect to the property. And what we do have here is a piece of property that is in immediate proximity to the intersection of Hillsborough and 275, basically from Nebraska to Florida, which is quite regarded as a no man's land in many respects. There's a lot of commercial activity, a lot of coming and going, and a lot of situations that people just don't pay attention to because they're in and out of there as fast as possible. The applicant lives there, and they have to contend with this on a daily basis. So I honestly see in this particular case a validity to the hardship as stated because of the transient population that they are experiencing almost on a daily basis. So the matter of the variance, whether we like the fence that is there or not, is one matter in itself. The variance just allows a fence to be there in the first place. Now, whether or not we get to see this fence again for a certificate of appropriateness opens up a different set of circumstances, a different set of concerns as to what is appropriate in this location.
I would assume that we would probably need to review another certificate of appropriacy if we granted the variance.
I would just focus your attention on what's on the agenda, that this is a variance,
understand.
and not make your decision about whether or not you'll see a certificate of appropriateness regarding this application. It's just about a
I
variance.
understand.
Yeah, this probably needs to be, or it does need to be decided based on just what was presented tonight, and we should act like we won't see it again, because typically fences are handled at the staff level.
Correct.
This is a tough one for me.
Oh, yes.
Because I am one of the commissioners that sits up here, and I'm pretty much, if it says no, I don't like to see the change. I like to see the district staying consistent in what it's been, setting precedent, and I hate using those words, but stuff like that. This property is very unique, though, and this particular owner is being presented with a situation that is very unfortunate.
And the other thing is, it's at the edge of the district. Yeah, it's basically almost at the edge of the historic district, and it's adjacent to commercial properties. There is actually, pretty much standing precedent that residential properties adjacent to commercial properties, you have fences between those two uses, regardless of whether they're in the historic district or not. But yes, I understand. None of us like to go against the standards. No one likes to give exceptions that are permanent. And I think there's also a little bit of hesitation on our part because we're rewarding somebody who did something without a permit
Or prior review.
With that said, we've had people come in here before that the attitude was totally different with these people. I mean, there's some humility here that I sense, and I don't think that from what I heard, they relied on their fence contractor to steer them a direction, and the fence contractor obviously either didn't know, didn't care, whatever the case may be. So there's a human aspect to this that is a little different than most cases we see.
Well, it's number 5. It's the substantial justice being done.
But you go back to, I realize there's some fences in Seminole Heights, but the guidelines say there are not. So for us, as the governing body, our job is to look at the big picture here and look at your one tonight, look at your one particular property. And I can sense some struggles.
Oh, yeah.
I prefer to call this a practical difficulty rather than an alleged hardship. It helps me. And I am torn because there are lots of places in the city that have this problem. And I know that you are in a peculiar location. And so I am trying to make to balance that.
Just as a reminder, while you guys are discussing this application, I've heard several comments about other fences throughout the district. Again, this application is only focused on the hardship for this property and not about other properties. So if you could focus your attention on
Yeah, that
the
muddies the
evidence
water. Yeah, that muddies.
that's presented this evening about this specific property, that's where your focus should be, is this property and not what's allowed in the district, but the hardship criteria for this property.
Thank you.
So, I mean, the way I see it is the hardship that's in front of us tonight. Did this applicant create the hardship by installing a fence? That answer is pretty simple, it's yes. But they built the fence, so that what I mean by that is had they not built the fence, they wouldn't be here tonight. But they built it to keep this transient community out of their front yard. Now, without the front yard fence, obviously, hopefully, they can still lock their gates and utilize their backyard. She can't really utilize her front yard without, who knows, trying to come into her yard.
Right now.
Currently, now,
2 years from
if
now,
something
3 years from now, 4
changes-
years from now, who's to say that front yard would then become,
If-
there's no homeless problem in this neighborhood, commercial development, residential development happens adjacent to their property, and this issue is no longer a hardship.
and there's where the problem lies.
Right. And I think we all understand, yeah, that this is something that, one, before I buy a property, I would certainly be in the neighborhood at night to see what the neighborhood is like at night. Yeah, multiple times. Before I even rent in a property, in the neighborhood, I'd certainly do that. I drive through multiple times at night. But, so I think the hardship is the neighborhood's not good. That's the hardship. The neighborhood's not good right now. And they bought into that neighborhood. But the neighborhood might not be that neighborhood next week, or next month, next year.
Yeah, I mean, if this community were to decide that another location is better for their needs, then they're gonna move. I mean, and then that, like you said, this is no longer an issue. At this particular location in town, who knows? But that's not our job. There's other people in the city that should be enforcing that, not us.
I understand. I'm just saying that, the hardship is the neighborhood's bad. It's a bad neighborhood. That's the hardship we've been presented with.
Does anybody want to entertain a motion? You got anything else to say?
You're about to say say something, Mr. Myers?
No, I think that, are we ready for a motion?
I entertain one. Sure.
Variance. Anyone may make this motion.
I'm
I'm gonna bite the head off this one. I move for approval without conditions that the variance requested in ARC, excuse me, 22-180 for the property located at 506 East Mohawk Avenue in the Seminole Heights Historic District, presented at this public hearing for a front yard fence based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with respect to the 6 hardships of criteria set forth in section 27-114, subsection D of the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances for granting variances as stated, and evidence provided in this public hearing, specifically that the applicant has made sufficient presentation outlining hardships and practical difficulties that are unique to this particular site in this particular location.
Do we have a second?
Apparently the motion dies.
No second, motion dies.
I move that the variance request for case ARC 22-180 for the property located at 506, I can't even read that word, Mohawk Avenue, East Mohawk Avenue, for a front yard fence be denied due to the failure of petitioner to meet the burden of proof with regard to the 6 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-114D of the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, specifically that the hardship is that the neighborhood is not a good neighborhood and that it doesn't meet the criteria for hardship.
Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. Nay. All right, we got a tie of 2-2.
So according to your rules of procedure, unless there's someone who's interested in changing their vote, this would be automatically continued to the next public hearing in August.
And what will be the date of the?
I believe August 9th would be, which is a Wednesday, would be the open.
So we'll need a motion to, or no, it's automatically.
You don't, if there's no reconsideration of the motion, then it will automatically continue.
That's the August 9th that.
Is there, can we continue discussion, or?
Yeah, I mean, could you open up like an alternate?
I mean,
I think,
we may already have our mind set, but
The only option is if someone would make a motion to reconsider, and that would be accepted, and then you would continue the discussion. Otherwise, you've already made your motion.
okay. So does anyone, I guess if either one of us, and I don't see anyone reconsidering, so.
Okay, so then we're gonna go ahead and plan on August 9th.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Vila, I'm staff with Historic Preservation. The next two agenda items have the same address at 1902 North Howard Avenue. I spoke to the agent and the owner. We are going to address these one at a time. One is for the certificate of appropriateness that we're going to hear first, which is ARC 23-311. As I stated, for the address of 1902 North Howard Avenue. It is a local landmark. It was designated as a local landmark. The owner came forward to save the building and to renovate it in the West Tampa National Historic District. The structure that we're going to look at, it was constructed in 1905. The zoning attached to it is a CI, and the request for the first one is for a certificate of appropriateness for rehabilitation to the exterior with some site improvements. So I'm going to go through the photo essay. These will be here for you to review for the remainder of this case and for the next case. I'm not going to do an additional photo presentation. It's just redundant. So this is West Tampa. I'm going to spend a little time with the orientation. Property in question is here. It's on the corner of Chestnut and Howard. Some of the main corridors in West Tampa is Main Street. This is just a couple blocks north of Main Street. As I stated on the corner, the red indicates that this was brick construction. The overall vernacular of the building takes on the building materials as it once did. There are some structures, and you see the inventory from 1929 as the Sanborn shows. These two structures have been removed, and now that sits as parking area for the subject site. And I'll show some additional photos. This here is focusing on the National Historic District of West Tampa. Once again, you have Main Street as a reference point, 2 blocks south of the subject site. As you go north from Main Street to Chestnut, it's on the western portion of Howard Avenue. Just a little closer, you see the concentration of the historic fabrics within the national boundaries of West Tampa. And then moving to look at a more current aerial. Property question, once again, on the corner of Chestnut and Howard. You see that there has been some historic fabric removed, not as part of this request, but it was done many years ago. But you see the concentration in the fabric of the density of the housing within the National District. Moving forward to the subject site, this is the primary facade, which faces Howard Avenue. You see that there has been some modifications to the pedestrian level, the first floor, how it's changed. The storefronts have been modified, the entrances have been modified. On the lower level, there's been some stucco applied. The iron columns are still prevalent and exposed as they should be. This is the southern portion of the front facade, and just focusing on the northern portion to give you a complete essay. Howard Avenue is a one-way street heading to the north. There is some parallel parking along Howard Avenue. And this is looking at Howard Avenue to the north. Subject site is on the left. Directly across the street, you see that there is some historic fabric that still remains. Going back to the subject site, this is the front elevation. And as you go down Chestnut to the west, you see that there was a storefront in this image here. You have your pilaster, and then usually on these historic structures, the storefront turns the corner. The rest of it on the first floor has been modified. You have an entrance to the rear on that elevation. You see on the top that the window, the proportions have been modified and enclosed, but in a manner that one would tell what was there, and the re-implementation of the window sizes and materials are part of the request this evening. This is looking at that other entrance on the secondary elevation, and then there is a perimeter wall around the parking that we'll get to in a minute. Just focusing on the front elevation, this is the northern portion, and then there is an alley that bisects that block along the alley. There, on the pedestrian level, on the first floor, there is an opening on the rear, and then the windows up top have been modified. This is looking down the alley. The alley's a usable alley, and it's been traversed by vehicles. Going back to the parking area, you have your perimeter wall. You do have an automated gate here. This will be the parking area, and then you see the back elevation. Just a little closer shot how it appears today. Looking into the parking area from Chestnut, you have the fence with the gate that's open. And then to conclude the photo presentation, that's just the surface of the parking area as it exists today. Just to remind you, we're going to focus on the first request that's coming up. This is for the certificate of appropriateness for the exterior elevation and site improvements. Once they finish the presentation, then we'll go to the ad valorem that's going to follow this presentation. At this time, I'll have the agent come up and the owner address the board.
I'm Stephanie Farrell, and I'm the agent for this project and the Historic Preservation Consulting Architect and advisor. And Hamilton Jones, who is the owner, will make the presentation this evening, and I'll be available to assist in any way. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Hamilton Jones. I'm the owner of the property, McFarland Building LLC. Tonight we're here to request two things: the certificate of appropriateness for the exterior elements of the building, and then the second case will be for the ad valorem tax abatement application. So part of our team, Stephanie, you just met or just saw, she's our historic preservation consultant for the project. We've also retained the architecture firm of Fleischman Garcia Maslowski. And tonight we have Ken Zucker and Derek Ray here from the architecture firm. We also have Beth Garcia, who's our interior designer for the project. So they're here to answer any questions, but I'm going to be giving the presentation and walk you through the different elements. As Mr. Vila said, the location is at 1902 North Howard Avenue, which is Howard Avenue just north of the interstate into West Tampa, just past Main Street. You've got the public library, and you've got the post office, and it's just a couple more buildings up. It used to be the Bonnie Doors building. I don't know if you ever drove by there. He was in business for about 50 years there. We purchased the property and decided to take it on in the project to restore it and bring it back to its original grandeur. Let's see. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the history of West Tampa, but back in the late 1800s, Hugh McFarland came to Tampa, became a very prominent person in town. He became the city attorney and the state attorney in town. There's actually a law firm in town still today called McFarland Ferguson. It's named after him. You may be familiar with McFarland Park. So affectionately, he was known as the father of West Tampa. He decided to buy 200 acres west of the Hillsborough River, and he incorporated a brand new city called West Tampa. And his idea was to kind of compete with Ybor City in the cigar industry. So he would approach manufacturers and have them come to West Tampa, and he would build a factory for them, and then he decided he would sell residential lots to their workers. So this building he constructed in 1905, and this was his land sales office. So originally, the second floor of this building was a rooming house, and the ground floor was a combination of office and retail uses, and over the years it's been many things: hardware stores, warehouse space. Let me see here. So this makes it smaller. So again, we're in the West Tampa National Historic District. It's not a local historic district, but as part of this process, we had the building designated a local landmark, and that was approved by City Council. To give you a site plan, talk about the site improvements. This is the parking area, and this is the structure the main structure of the building. It's a 2-story red brick structure. Originally, the building had 3 skylights, and we're going to reintroduce those skylights on the top of the building. It is enclosed with a 6-foot concrete block wall currently. Some of these are the same photos as before. Front elevation, the front's Howard Avenue. This is the south elevation as it faces Chestnut Street. If you'll notice, it has the existing original balcony up on the 2nd floor. It's the only balcony on the structure. This is the rear of the property. As you can see, they've stuccoed, at some point somebody stuccoed the whole ground floor of the perimeter of the building. So it's our intention is to remove all that stucco and bring it back to the original brick, and then repair the brick and repoint the brick. Here's a shot of the alleyway. It is an active alleyway. A lot of the homeowners down the alley do use that for vehicle traffic. Here's one of the historic photos of the building. We weren't able to find a whole lot of historic photos of it. There weren't a whole lot that were direct shots of the building, but if you do notice on here that the window pattern, the light pattern, it's a 2/2, and that's the type of window that we're going to reintroduce to the property. So this will show you in red the elements that we'll be removing. That we'll be removing all the non-historic aspects of the building. It currently has aluminum windows in there that we'll be removing, and the storefronts. The doors used to be inset on the front, on the first floor elevation. Someone over time had brought those all the way flush, so we're going to remove all those and inset the doors again. Here's a shot of the proposed, what it'll look like. This is a representation. This is not the exact way we're going to have it, but this is a building in Ybor City that was recently approved. But this is kind of the thought process, having the inset doors with the low wall and the transom windows above. And this also will show you the 2/2 windows. This is the south elevation. Again, you can, in red, you see what we'll be removing. None of the doors or windows are original. And here's the proposed elevation. So the new windows will fill in the entire window, the original window opening sizes. So we're not going to have small windows. They'll completely fill the whole area. This is the proposed elevation from the parking lot, from the rear of the property. And this is along the alleyway. Again, in red, those are the elements we'll be removing. And this is the proposed elevation from the alley. Also notice the chimney stacks. Each of the rooms upstairs had some type of heater in them, and those were the original chimney stacks for like a fuel oil heater or what have you in those spaces. So we'll retain all those chimneys. And here's a wall section, which you may have in your packet already. Here's just a shot of the exterior finishes, and it's also on the board here. As we said, it's a 2/2 true wood window, wood on the interior and wood on the exterior. It's not going to be a slab window, it's going to be solid wood, all wood. Again, none of the doors were there, so we're just going off the historic photos. We're proposing mahogany wood doors for the front elevation. Period appropriate light fixtures. Here are the skylights we're going to reintroduce. Some of the interiors too. Oh, I had the wrong board up. Here's the exterior. Okay. I'll show you the wrong board. Here's the exterior finishes. Front elevations, as you can see, light fixtures, the skylights, true wood windows, the inset doors, mahogany doors, period appropriate door hardware. This kind of gives you an idea of the light pattern and design of the doors. Also note that the original steel columns are in the front of the building, or we'll be keeping those and restoring those also. Let's see. Again, as I mentioned, the balcony, we will be keeping the exterior balcony. There is a sign, an original sign to the building at the very top of the building. And it says McFarland on it, and it says 1905. So we'll restore that sign and keep it. Let's see. Some other exterior elements will be the roof. It's just a flat roof. We'll keep it a straight sloping roof off the rear of the property. It'll just be a smooth white surface. There are gutters and downspouts on the rear of the property from that straight sloping roof, so we'll reintroduce those metal gutters and downspouts. And that's about it for the exterior elements. So do I now move on to the interior? Stop there? Okay. That concludes the exterior.
So to address the case ARC 23-311 for the certificate of appropriateness, we're going to focus on the exterior and the site elements. Staff's finding that this is consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards with the plans that we reviewed on May 30th, 2023. When you look forward and you review a project that is bringing life back to the building, we use the historic photos as a precedent. This is one photo I don't recall seeing, but it shows the relationship of the storefront to the pedestrian, the sidewalk that's there, and then the vernacular of the whole building, how it hugs the corner. Very important to keep those architectural elements in place as you can. The building has been altered over time, and that's why that historic photo, I think, if we need to go back to that, it'll draw some inspiration. So staff find that it's consistent with the following conditions when we review the plans. To discuss the rehabilitation details that are consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards. I believe he went through the majority of those. There is the encroachment of the balcony on the south elevation. Staff found no evidence that had been vested into it. There's a process to go through that, and we'll work with the agent and owners to reestablish that, to leave it in place as it is, to clean it and prepare it for the final review. The final solution for the parking area, we wanted some discussion or additional inspiration on the wall that's there. Is the wall going to remain? Is it going to be embellished at all? The gates that there, the surface, and then the solid waste location was discussed at prior meetings that we had internally with city staff, and that should be discussed this evening. The location of the signage, He talked about the historic signage that's embellished into the front elevation. If they have any direction on signage that should be talked about today, or we can handle that maybe at a later date. I don't know how far it's been discussed. The entrance at the storefront, there's a transition from the sidewalk as you have your recess entrance, that there's usually some kind of penny tile or hex tiles as you come in. A lot of times they have a border that's very period appropriate. Sometimes it has the address, it has the name of the building. There's different treatments that you could do there. So that needs to be discussed. I think that's very important for the success of this building moving forward and how it interacts with the people walking up and down the street. On the plans, it showed that there was going to be a PVC molding at the storefront, at the lower bulkhead and some of the surrounds. That's usually a foreign material as somebody is coming forward with the ad valorem, and that's at a later date, but it's going to kind of piggyback on this. So I think this should be discussed at this time with the exterior materials, and he did show a section, so if you want him to go through the section a little more details, he can do that as well. I think it's important also for the success of this building, so the first floor has some stucco. Once the stucco is removed, that staff needs to go back out there and revisit it to see exactly what condition the brick is, under, the mortar, all of that. So at the time, we usually have them take some of the stucco off, and then we'll engage in additional conversation. So you have the upper floor to kind of look at as a reference, but if that brick is damaged, what are we going to do? Move forward with the brick. I believe that concludes the conditions that we had at the time. I'll be here to assist in the presentation as we move forward and answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, do we have anyone in the audience for public comment? All right, seeing none, now we will ask questions, and we'll let Commissioner Sutton start.
Thank you very much. If the petitioner would please come forward. I would like to open up, at least for our education, some further information respecting some of the conditions that the staff has placed into our packets regarding this project. And I'm just going to ask some general questions to you about them. First of all, regarding the balcony and its encroachment on the right-of-way, have you had an opportunity to speak with anyone with respect to the nature of this encroachment at the city of Tampa level at this point in time? Because it's an unusual feature, the way it's just hanging out there in that respect. Usually we see some of these things either more involved with the building elevation, such as we would in Ybor City, or this would be in some other location, such as a backside or a side yard situation within an existing building. This is smack dab on a right-of-way. Have you had a chance to talk to anyone about that? Because that is a difficulty in itself.
Right, I guess early in the discussions, I think it was the transportation department, I'm not sure which department it was, but they said there is a process to apply for a waiver of that process, so we haven't begun that process yet. We wanted to get the feedback from the board.
But you're thinking that maybe it's something as simple as a waiver would be the way to go for something like that?
I think so. I mean, and also, this building is located in the West Tampa overlay area, and there is provision in there about the balcony. So there isn't, it's almost like an exception, kind of to read from this paragraph. It's 27-241, the West Tampa overlay. It says a separate encroachment application will not be required provided projections comply with the following criteria. Such features shall be at least 8 feet above grade and have a minimum projection into the right-of-way of 6 feet. So one thing, we think we're okay with that West Tampa overlay language, but we'll also work with staff and however they direct us. If we need to apply for a waiver, then we'll go through that process.
Because I know little difficulties like this could really hang up a project fast.
Right.
Let's talk about your enclosed parking area. Can you run down to us all the details that are of concern this one, such as final fit and finish of your wall, gates, how this interior would be, enclosed area be allocated and utilized? Do you have information about that at this point in time?
Yeah, so it's an existing wall. It's been there for many, many years. It's about a 6-foot concrete block wall with a stucco finish on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
It does have an active rolling aluminum gate now. So our intention is to keep that gate. It just becomes an enclosed, secure parking area.
And how does that dovetail with your solid waste?
The solid waste, we found, let me see, I think we have a proposal. Let me put this back up. And looking at the solid waste guidelines, we're proposing now to locate the dumpster in this first parking space. So it'll be a rolling dumpster that can be rolled out and utilized that way.
Okay, so it'll be a nose loading sort of a situation.
Right.
And how many parking spaces do you have in there?
Well, with the West Tampa Overlay District, we're only required to have 1 per 1,000 parking spaces,
Okay.
which is 11, and we're going to be providing 16. So we're exceeding it by about 50%, 60%.
Am I reading this also correctly that you have a pretty broad sidewalk planned, or at least landing pad area adjacent to your building? Is that correct? Am I reading that correctly?
You mean entering the parking area?
No, adjacent to your building, between the parking and the building.
Oh, it's maybe 4 feet wide,
How long?
about 4 feet wide.
Is that for? It seems an awful lot wider than that. I see this white strip between the parking and the building outline.
Okay. This, you're talking about this?
Yes.
That's a concrete material, where the rest of it is asphalt. So we'll be probably capping the entire thing in asphalt.
Mm-hmm. AC units.
Okay.
Just a few more, please. Signage. You indicated your intent to deal with the existing signage that's on the building, the historic fabric. Have you, I know you're doing an awful lot of work with that storefront that's on the existing building. Have you made any significant thought at this point in time on how you're going to be dealing with individual tenant signage in that respect?
We really haven't at this point. We haven't gotten along that far. I mean, one thought was just to do it on the glass above the front doors, do lettering or numbering up there. But if there's going to be any more exterior signage attached to the building, then we would go through staff and get all that approved. If we need to come back before the board, we will.
That is all I have for this moment.
Commissioner Prokop, any questions?
Hi,
Hey.
I'm very familiar with this building.
Okay.
Do you know when the building was stuccoed?
I
Is there a
don't-
historic record of that?
that
Does
is
your
not-
historic preservation consultant have any idea?
We estimated it was done in the 1970s, because it was there in some photographs that date from that period.
Can you bring up the photographs, the historic photographs that you have of the original building?
Yep.
That one in particular, I have not seen, the big broad one that shows a lot of the front. I've never seen that one before, and
We found that one a little bit later.
Yeah,
We did actually submit it through into the Acela file, but it's,
Okay.
it was not.
yeah, I've
one of
dug
the
through
first
the records.
photos
I've
that we
I've
found.
never seen this one.
Yeah, that was really helpful.
Yeah, you need to zoom in as close as you can to that so we can see as much as possible. So I do see I guess I see the recessed storefront just to the right of the stop sign. It's hard to read what's going on the other three.
If I can interrupt you, and I only have one photograph that shows one of the doorways, and it does show sort of the pattern of the inset. And you pardon the photograph because it's pretty, it doesn't have a lot of detail to it, but I'll put it down anywhere and explain it. So this is the pattern of the inset right here. And it's, of course, it's covered with a lot of debris and dirt. This was the door store, as Hamilton
Right.
mentioned. So that each of those entrances actually has that same pattern in the concrete.
Okay, so that's evident from
It's evidence,
interior.
physical evidence on the interior.
Interior demolition.
Yes,
has
it
exposed
shows up
that.
on the interior.
Okay.
Sorry that this is not as
That's
clear.
what I'm getting at, is that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
we don't want to create something that we didn't know was there. You know, that's what I was being particular about.
Yeah, so it's physical evidence.
Okay,
of what
great.
was there.
And you're intending to put tile on those floors? Is there a floor pattern for those?
It's an
insets?
existing concrete floor, already scored in a diamond pattern and stained already. So it is our intention is to repolish that and keep the existing.
Okay, has there been any evidence, have you uncovered anything that indicated that there was any other kind of a floor, a tile
No.
pattern or anything?
None.
Okay,
Right, it's true that in Ybor you see a lot of tile in the insets, but in this case, it's basically scored concrete.
okay,
No evidence of prior installation of tile.
okay. Have you got the specification for how you're going to try to remove the stucco from that brick? Do you know of a manner that you're going to try to do it? Because, I mean, if it's been there for 50 years, it's pretty much bonded to that
Right.
soft old brick, and when
Right.
you pull off the stucco, you're basically going to pull off the brick.
Right.
You're going to remove the brick.
It's labor intensive. We've done some test patches in the rear of the property, and we found it's just a hand and chisel, and if you come down the mortar joints versus the brick itself, then it tends to do less damage, and it's repairable and looks pretty good.
Okay, it's going to be critical to the success of whether or not you can even. I'm just speaking from a historic preservationist as to whether or not it's even feasible to actually try to take that stucco off.
Right.
It could cause more damage to the building than leaving it in place,
Right.
and I'm concerned about that.
Yeah,
And-
I might say the test patches have been pretty successful.
Have they been?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
It wasn't very well adhered. Good news.
Crap,
Yeah.
yeah.
The craftsmanship
What else,
wasn't that
what else are
great.
you gonna say about the 70s, you know? I mean, nothing was really done that well in the 70s. And do you, in all my research in this building, I've actually read that McFarlane didn't build it, but that it was named after him, or that he occupied it. But I was just curious if you had any record on whether or not he had
I'm not positive.
actually
so I
built
just-
it. Okay. Yeah, I've done a lot of work with the McFarlane
Okay.
history and
All right.
what he's done for West Tampa. I guess the only other thing I really had to question is the period-appropriate light fixture that you proposed for the exterior. It just looks horrible.
Okay.
I would much rather see, honestly, I'd much rather see a very elegant, modern light fixture even to distinguish the fact that who knows where these historic light fixtures were, and that's probably not what they were used.
Right.
That I'd rather see something that you put up today that's elegant and simple and doesn't detract from the actual historic fabric of the building
Okay.
than that frilly thing.
So you would like to see something more simple and modern or contemporary compatible?
It could be contemporary, it could be, less busy, less frou-frou-y.
Yeah.
It just looks frou-frou-y to
It could
me.
be traditional but simple.
Exactly, yeah.
Very good.
I guess those are the only questions I had.
I'd like to go back. I saw on the drawings that came in through Acela, you said that you were going to pressure wash the exterior of the building, but I think is that correct?
Yes, I mean, we'll do that to clean it.
I thought that was generally not advisable for in historic preservation.
You can pressure wash, you just have to use a light pressure and obviously no sandblasting, nothing abrasive. So you can clean according to the Secretary of the Interior's, basically the National Park Service preservation briefs allow for cleaning.
All right, thank you.
It
And
would be
the,
gentle.
I would also like, I would like to thank you for replacing the skylights. This is, this,
That'll be wonderful
yeah. And,
and appropriate.
and will they also be wood framed?
No, they will not be. They'll be metal.
And,
And typically they were steel framed, even in that day, yeah.
and your double hung windows will, the functionality of the double hung window that has no screen on the outside is a question, but I know that at the time, screens were not put on them. Am I correct in that? Ms.
Likely
Farrell?
true, yeah. Not on a commercial building, it would have been unusual to have a screen.
And is it permissible, in your opinion, to use any other material rather than wood in these windows if the size of the light is not compromised?
Well, the advice from staff is that wood windows would be the most appropriate, considering that this will be an ad valorem exemption project. And certainly, the windows are not so large, they're not exceptionally large in comparison to some other historic properties. So a wood window will meet code, will meet current code, and also be period appropriate.
Do you know what the species is?
Do I know?
Has the wood species been thought through yet? Or I saw that in the Marvin thing that they have 8 different species that they can offer you.
Right. We haven't selected that yet, just
Okay.
waiting to get this approval.
All right, all right, thank you very much. No further questions.
Going back to the skylight, you mentioned that it's going to be steel. Do you have any better details here with you tonight other than the picture that you've provided?
No, somebody got me. It is.
Is it a reconstruction or a market? On the market.
We'd have to have it manufactured.
Okay, yeah, it's gonna be manufactured. Custom, is it custom? That I don't know.
I'm just kind of curious of what all the different materials, the makeup is.
They were typically, in that time period, they were typically steel and often, of course, a frosted wire glass. In this case, I don't think wire glass is being proposed, but I wouldn't think that would be necessary.
I'm not sure this is gonna give you what you want. So then here's the
Maybe the-
skylight detail.
Yeah, here, maybe that one would be the more appropriate one. Here, so it's double glazed? Yeah,
Right.
double glazed.
Okay.
So you'll see the metal, you know, which is, which is definitely appropriate.
Right. All right, so my next question, staying at the roof line, is there on the parapet, is there any, what's your thought process to finish around the parapet, or are you just gonna leave it as is? You mentioned a flat roof. Sometimes those roofs come up and over and there's coping and some other things. I'm just trying to get an idea of what the plan is for that.
For the parapet walls on the inside of the roof, not, you don't mean on the outside?
Well, I'm just trying to gather
Top of the wall?
the top of
Yeah.
the wall, if you will, what we're gonna see from the street level.
Right. So we are proposing a sprayed polyurethane foam roof. We've put them on about 15 different buildings. And they just spray on their layer and it comes up the parapet wall and stops right at the face of the wall. So you won't see it from the street or from the exterior elevations.
So the face of the inside of the parapet?
Yeah, so it's a continuous system from the top of the parapet wall down the parapet and across the
Okay,
roof
so
structure.
being you mentioned a foam roof, I'm gonna ask, just my experience with foam roofs on historic properties as a contractor is eventually they leak and you don't know that they're leaking until it's really, really late in the game. So I can appreciate the fact that you've used them in the past,
Right.
but they can bring their own issues, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah, this is a rigid insulation, right?
No,
Oh, it's not, okay. It's a spray foam.
Spray foam.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, so,
yeah, if not applied properly, it can be problems. You're right. But we have a very good contractor. He gives us a 10-year leak-free warranty, so we're very happy with it.
so basically to finish the top of the parapet, what you're telling me is it's gonna be basically what it is now? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. And then, as far as mechanicals, I think I saw them at the rear of the building.
Correct.
Is that the only mechanicals proposed?
Yes. So they'll sit on the ground at the rear, on the rear wall of the property.
Okay. Now, are you also proposing some sort of bollard or something there to protect them from the parking? Or what type of barrier are we looking for there? Or is there one?
Well, it would either be wheel stops, and if we need to add bollards, we would do bollards.
My next question, and probably my last one, is back to the stucco. Now, I heard that you successfully had some test sites. Are you working with someone at this point that's experienced removing this, or is this something that you and, or some of your staff maybe is doing these test sites and you're just seeing, can it be done? I'm just trying to get an idea here of what the mindset is as far as the contractor, they're,
Right.
are they specialized in this? If this is done wrong, unfortunately, it could create quite a mess.
Right. So initially, my staff did the test patches, but we haven't gotten that far along yet to where we'll hire a professional company to come in. Probably the same company that's going to be doing the repair and the repointing of the brick, so that same contractor is responsible for all of it.
Yeah, because my experience is, unfortunately, that's very difficult by hand
Right.
to do. Let's see. The columns, you also mentioned refinishing those. What is the prep?
So they're steel currently, and they're just painted. So we'll remove the paint and then, seal them up properly.
So are you looking to chemically remove that, or are you looking to?
Most likely.
Okay. I think the only other thing I saw that staff had kind of mentioned was the PVC usage on the front of the building.
Yeah, so the storefront windows will be a metal storefront, and we're still developing a treatment of how to kind of, hide that metal, or I guess initially we proposed a PVC product, but we can look at doing like an AZAC type product, something that's more appealing.
Can you show us on the detail where that's being proposed?
It is.
Large details as well, towards the back of the set. Behind this. It might have been from, there's some blow up of like a head sill jam, if you will. So, yeah, you're there, and, couple, it's down right there. I'm sorry. We would do this. The sheet. So this is your jam condition. Ahead and the silt won't apply.
This is a plan view looking down on the recesses that would come back into the door opening, but this is showing the storefront glass would come straight across. I don't know if that helps you or not, but.
So is the molding,
How the wood is trimmed, how the metal is trimmed.
is the molding what is being proposed to be PVC, is that?
You showed right there is 3/4 inch molding, yeah, looked like wood and
Uh-huh.
symbol.
I think the window installer was talking about just doing something over the metal track of the storefront window, so that you weren't seeing the,
So when I see 3/4 molding and I also see 1.5 inch molding, I guess what I'm trying to
That's
figure
wood.
out
Right.
is what are those materials?
So those materials will be wood.
Okay,
I advised against PVC.
Right.
okay. All right, so we've got wood windows and you're proposing wood trim. Did I just hear that correctly?
Correct.
Okay. I've got a question for staff going back to the roof. This roof is behind the parapet, so do we have any jurisdiction at all behind, as far as the materiality of this particular roof?
Well, the roof is exposed to the rear because it's got the slant, and they're gonna have a gutter going across where the rain leaders. What we try to do in the past is for water intrusion on the back of the parapet, the roof kind of comes up, and then there's different treatments with some kind of termination bar behind the parapet. And we've seen other successful products that they terminate on top of the parapet, but there's not a metal cap. Sometimes there's a metal cap that's exposed, and you see that from the primary elevation. I think that should be frowned upon. So there's different treatments, and we could talk about, however he wants to achieve that. So as long as it's not visible from the two primary streets, I think that is a path that he could go down.
Okay. So I'll piggyback that with, do you have a detail of any sort on the gutter that you're proposing that we will be able to see from the rear of the building?
I don't at this time, no.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple follow-ups. One was, we need to know in this document, because this document doesn't state what the material is of anything. It just says 1.5 inch molding. It just says 3/4 inch molding. Nothing says wood. And I know in the elevations that can you put up your front elevation, the street front elevation, Howard Avenue? And this is the construction document. Okay, and can you note, can we see all the notes? If these are the documents that are being used for approval. New wood door with glass, new double hung window pressure wash. So the notes regarding what the trim is have been removed from these drawings. There's nothing that's calling out what this trim is. All the moldings and all the trim around all this storefront. Doesn't say what it is in the document.
I mean, that's something we could work with staff with, or work, you could.
Well, it's important. It's important. One of the issues with these kinds of buildings, and this storefront, and it's in numerous other buildings, is that storefront was all wood. It was all built out of wood originally. The original fabric is wood. But wood obviously is not the greatest, weathering material for an exterior of a giant, storefront window because of weather. So most of the time, these had canopies over them. These were shaded. They were prevented from getting, the UV light damage and a lot of the water damage because there were canopies over the sidewalk for all these. Have you considered restoring any kind of canopies over these sidewalks to protect the storefronts?
We considered it, but we thought at this time we were going to proceed without the canopies.
Okay.
Thinking if we became something we needed in the future, that we would come back.
Well, again, they were there to protect more, as much as provide shade for the sidewalk. They were there to protect the storefronts,
Right.
the wood storefronts from deteriorating.
Right.
And that wood trim, have you, again, we're trying to give you an approval for something, and yet there's a lack of information on these drawings. Have you provided, or have you investigated use of like an acetylated wood product or anything that's besides just your typical, off-the-shelf one-by material? Are you familiar with acetylated wood? It's hard for me to pronounce that, I'm sorry.
I guess I'm not, no. Like an Akoya wood or something?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
Have you considered that for this wood?
Yeah. We'd like to get it as, we don't want it to deteriorate, obviously, it's, so we want to use the best materials we can use.
That's been, we're not here to testify, but I've known in previous other historic projects where there's wood storefront or even wood storefront trim, that product has been successfully used. The other thing, the pressure washing I wanted to bring up is that definitely the specifications for that need to be staff approved as to the PSI level allowed and that kind of thing. And I am concerned about the foam roof going over the top of the parapet and covering the parapet top, because if it's white and the brick is brown, there's a white stripe across the top of the parapet. So I'd be interested, I think it's important that there be additional details provided that show how far back from the top of the parapet, from the street edge of that parapet top, that foam goes. It's, again, from other projects in West Tampa, it's very visible along the tops of the parapets from even a four-story building from the street. So I'd like staff to be able to have a say in where that foam stops, and to allow that brick edge to be the actual line that you see from the street. The other thing I do have a concern about, I guess now that it was brought up, is the existing site wall. Is there any indication of when, or any like Google Earth imagery going back in time when that site wall was built along the back of the property? Because it's just clunky, and if you're improving so much of the building and so much of the site, I think it's kind of like it's an odd thing to leave something so incompatible to the property there.
So I don't know the exact date of when it was installed.
Would you consider going back and reviewing the construction of that, and if that was done just 20 years ago, and is that really the appropriate thing to leave there when you're spending so much money and time on this restoration, that something maybe more appropriate with pilasters and an open vertical, wrought iron or aluminum kind of fencing material might be more appropriate historically?
Right. We're open to that.
Would you be? Okay. All right. I think that's it. I think I just hit those things I needed to talk about.
This picture here reminded me to ask regarding the chimney caps. Is there any, is there a picture you could show us, I know there is because you showed it to us a while ago, but of how it exists now, and then what's the plan, being we're going to be able to see these from the street?
They won't be active chimneys anymore, so we'll come up with a system to seal those to keep the rainwater out and not have it visible from the street.
So, just so you understand, so maybe making sure you're understanding my question here, we will or will not see these stacks from the street?
You'll see the stacks, you won't see the top of the stack. So whatever method you come up with to seal that, to keep the rainwater out, they'll seal that from the top, but the stacks will remain. You'll see the four sides.
Okay. All right, because again, my experience is you're going to see something there, but again, it doesn't sound like you've gotten to that point yet. So.
Right.
No.
No? You good? Everyone good? if that's, if everyone's good, then we'll close the public hearing portion of this. I'm sorry.
You asked questions.
We need a rebuttal. Yeah, I got lost.
Mr. Vila, did you have any other staff?
Not for the first case. We separated the cases.
So you just entitled to a rebuttal?
Okay,
Yeah, you got 5 minutes to rebut.
right. Well, obviously, when you have a large project like this, you may not have every detail on this drawing, but we've been renovating historic properties for about 30 years now and worked very closely with staff, and we'll continue to do so and try to have a very good project. So that's it.
All right, thank you. All right, now we will discuss.
Can you just close?
Oh, close the public hearing, and then now we'll discuss. You know, it's one of those things, it's assumed.
I mean, I think it's, you know, obviously it's to be lauded to take on a building like this and to try to bring it back to life and put it, you know, to a good use. I like the fact that, you know, that they do have some historic precedents for the recessed entries that they found on the floor, scoring when they, you know, opened up from the interior. Definitely the PVC is the wrong thing to use on the exterior, and they just removed notes that refer to PVC, but they didn't really call out what it is. So I think that needs to be a condition for, if we approve, we need to include that as a condition. Otherwise, I mean, you know, there's not a lot to, it just now it comes down to a matter of, okay, can they execute this, you know, skillfully?
And that's like that for any project like this.
Yeah, yeah.
This is ambitious. I mean, it's a smaller building.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of pieces in motion on this.
Yeah.
And I think they've got that thought out at this point in time. Remember, we're in a schematic stage at this point in time for this sort of a project. So there's not, like you said, there's not a whole lot of explicit detail, explicit specification for many things that they're contemplating right now. What they do have is a solid direction, and they're continuing in that direction, or hoping to continue in that direction. I agree with the idea of the PVC issue, you know, being all wood, species of wood. You know, that could be any one of a number of things. It depends upon how you handle this.
Yeah.
But I think it's more than just the storefront. It also goes for the entry doors that exist on all the sides of this. And even if you use it for the bucks and the infills for the windows themselves, you know, if they're going to continue with the wood concept for all of this new construction, then they need to be able to consider it for the whole of it. There's that level of consistency. I agree that, you know, the idea of, you know, how do we terminate in an appropriate fashion a urethane roof system that preserves what we're looking at from the street side on that parapet is an important one. Because I could just as easily see it come up to and terminate at the underside of that coping on the roof side, okay, which makes everyone very, very happy about the whole thing. I think it all depends upon really on how it's treated afterwards. You know,
The top of the parapet does have to be waterproofed to some degree, you know, or the water will just soak behind the foam. And I understand that, but there just needs to be some sort of degree of elegance as to where that foam stops, as to what can be seen from the front edge. Because it can be done bad and bulky, and, you know, have this wavy white.
No, I don't see it on there. I think it's going to be terminated on the backside. That's where it should go. At least that's what I would hope.
But that's not how it's done. I've been on a lot of roofs over there in West Tampa, and it just goes right over top and kind of like, and you have still have little tree branches growing out of the front of the foam on top of the brick, and, because it's been there forever, and, you know, it just, there's a way to do it elegantly that we just want to pay attention to. I guess the pressure wash, I mean, I'm concerned about the pressure washing
Yeah,
as well.
I agree with the
And
concern on
it has to
that.
go very, very low.
And once we're talking about it, the specification and methodology for the stucco removal should also be put into that same vein with staff review and approval.
Well, yeah,
I'm probably, the two things I'm concerned about are the stucco removal,
right,
based on just sheer experience of
right.
dealing with it. Luckily, we heard that
It's crappy stucco.
it wasn't put on correctly, so it's
Yeah,
falling
it
off.
either comes off easily or not.
Yeah, it's crappy
But
stucco.
to do that by hand and do it without scoring the brick on the backside,
Right.
that's gonna be tough. So if they can do it, I really commend the guys, you know, that pull that off. The urethane roof, you know, of course, on these commercial buildings, these roof systems that are out there, the reason you see, like you said, come up the backside and over is to waterproof the entire system, including that wall, and especially on these older buildings that are made with 3-4 wide thick brick that are very porous. You're going to, if they stop it on the backside, there's a really high chance that there's going to be some moisture issues down the road.
Right.
Behind this foam, which then eventually gets into the wood members of the building.
I agree.
That's
why the guys who put foam on roofs.
I'm not here to
Don't wanna-
testify about these roof systems, but
No, but they
I
don't
could go
want
on
to do
for
it
hours.
otherwise. They don't want to do it in any other way. They want to wrap it all the way over because they know that that's the limitation of the product, is that they have to cover everything and not have any of the parapet cap. But we have to make sure that the building is appropriate from the exterior, from the street.
Correct.
With that kind of a system.
So, yeah, I mean, this project's obviously in the infancy stages, and they're here in front of us for basically exterior approval.
Okay.
For the most part, it looks like they're trying to put it back like it was originally.
Yep.
And discussing, while you guys are discussing the conditions that you are, please just be reminded if you do make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness, an additional condition would be to work with staff regarding the status of the encroachments.
There you go. Thank you. Any other discussion points?
There's a lot of concrete at the back of this building between the building and the asphalt parking lot. We have no jurisdiction over this, but
Meaning what? Meaning like perviousness or pervious, impervious
that
percentages? Or
it could be pervious, that area could be some landscaping. I don't know where the elevations are working on that. We have made a number of suggestions here which are beyond the scope of our concerns, and this is yet another. But I believe that we need to, we are at specifying the parapet and coping details, the materials in first floor entrances, the trim materials in first floor entrances and windows, right? The approval of any modifications to the parking lot wall as appropriate for the district without adding detail that is what we hoped would be there, would have been there originally, right?
well, there were houses there originally.
But there are many very beautiful walls that have been produced in our historic districts.
Oh, you're talking
recently.
about the actual site wall?
Yes,
The site
I'm
wall.
talking about the site
Oh, yeah,
wall.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and I brought that up, and I think that's an appropriate thing to reconsider, to have the staff and the,
And then also the status of the
Applicant.
encroachment, is that,
yes,
That's a given.
yeah.
although it would seem that it would be grandfathered, and that would be pretty much automatic, but because it exists in those photographs
Well, it's
from the very
Protected in the
earliest.
overlay.
Yeah.
It's also in an overlay district.
Yeah, it sounded like
you
it's
know,
protected.
The overlay, yeah, would handle it.
Okay, we'll just get them to refine that.
Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, I'd like to make a move. I will move that the certificate, I'm on the wrong side of the page. I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 23-311 for the building at 902 North Howard Avenue. 1902 North Howard Avenue, my bad. With the following conditions. That the trim be specified to be wood trim on the doors and windows and storefront. That the applicant reconsider with staff the design of the existing site wall and gate along the southern border of the property. That the foam roofing material detail and termination at the parapet be carefully detailed with staff. That the specifications for the pressure washing be approved by staff. That the specifications for stucco removal be coordinated with staff. That the light fixtures be coordinated with staff. And that the status of the encroachments be coordinated with staff. Because based upon finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the City of Tampa codes, guidelines, and the Secretary of Interior standards. Sorry?
You guys had also discussed the status of the encroachments on the right of way as a condition.
I brought it up.
mentioned that.
I mentioned it. Because they're consistent with the City of Tampa design guidelines and the Secretary of the Interior standards and the West Tampa Overlay District.
It's just the Secretary of the.
Yeah, just the standards.
Standards.
Okay,
You said guidelines.
sorry. Okay. Nice, I agree. Clarified?
Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Passes 4-0.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Velam, staff with Historic Preservation. Our last agenda item is ARCT, which delineates that this is for the ad valorem tax exemption 23-01. The address is 1902 North Howard Avenue. Once again, this is a local landmark in the National District of West Tampa. This request is for the ad valorem tax exemption Part 1 pre-construction. So this is an elective process that he's coming forward with as the presentation template that comes forward. There are some features that need to be addressed as part of the request this evening. He'll go through the periodic significance and the statement of elegance that this building has to the West Tampa district. This is an adaptive reuse that you will be looking at the exterior. You saw some of the exterior features already. They're going to show some additional exterior features and then go into the interior for the review and discussion this evening. So at this time, Mr. Jones, thank you.
So now we'll be discussing the interiors of the building. And See on the Alma, here's the existing conditions of the property. You can see it's brick exterior walls. You can see the framing, that's the front elevation where that had been modified and changed at some point. So that'll all be taken out, all that wood framing on the, where the storefronts are, and that'll be done where we will now recess or inset the doors. This is another one of the bays. At some point, somebody came in and added concrete block walls into the interior of the space, but those were not original to the building. And they also didn't place them in the correct locations under the floor joists. So just about any work that was done in there I don't trust, so we want to redo it all and do it properly. So it's our intention is to remove those concrete block walls and introduce some steel columns and a steel structure in there to support it properly. Again, you're seeing more of the concrete block walls and the concrete floor. That's one interesting element we did find on the interior. It's kind of hard to see. I'll try to zoom in. There was a little bit of the original pressed tin ceiling. So we've salvaged those pieces and taking dimensions and looking at the patterns, and now so our intention is to reintroduce the tin ceiling on the entire ceiling of the first floor. Here you can see the original, zoom out a little bit, the original staircase. It had a wooden wainscoting, kind of like a beaded ceiling wainscoting. So that was located in the stairwells and in the corridors, the common corridors on the second floor. Here, this is just looking at the top of it has two staircases. One comes from the front of the building, one comes from the back. They're just straight shot staircases. So there's actually two there. If you look at the top of the picture here, you can see where the old skylight was, and that's where we'll reintroduce that skylight in that kind of a common lobby area. Zoom out. Again, just more of the windows and the staircase. When we got to the building, none of the newel posts were there, or the railing for the stair, or the spindles, none of that was there. So we're having to have an educated guess on how to reintroduce those. Here you can see the aluminum windows that are currently in the building, and they don't fill up the entire opening. So the new windows will fill in the entire opening. What was interesting in this building, and on two ends of the building, they had light wells. Here you're looking downward at the floor of the light well. You can kind of see the condition of the building, but those light wells, there was a skylight on the roof, and it introduced light into some of the interior rooms. Some of the rooms that didn't have windows, this light well provided some light and some ventilation to those rooms. Here's a shot of standing in the building on the second floor looking out at the balcony. What's interesting is that building across the street, that's the original Alessi Bakery building in Tampa. It says Alessi up at the top of it. Well, that's it for photos. Let me see if I got for the original condition. Let's go through here. Again, the red is just showing you the areas that we'll be removing. Some of the dashed lined area, that's the concrete block walls that were not original to the building. So we're removing that and taking it back to its original opening sizes. Here's the proposed floor plan for the first floor, keeping the two stairwells and introducing the columns in the middle. Here's the second floor plan. It's our intention to keep the exact same floor plan that was originally in the building. So we're not modifying or changing the floor plan upstairs. the only red you see on this on this page is just the exterior windows that'll be removed. This has a lot of lettering on it, but this is the proposed second floor plan. This building was kind of like 4 quadrants. They all mirror image of each other, and also the ends of the buildings too. The floor plans were pretty much identical. Again, here's the light well areas. These offices, we have one labeled a break room. Well, that was original kitchen. So again, this was a rooming house, and they had 4 different kind of common kitchen areas up there on the second floor. Here's a ceiling plan, reflective ceiling plan for the first floor. Here you can see the grid for the press tin ceiling. We'll have kind of I think we're planning to have a 13-inch crown molding around the perimeter of the room. And then there's a filler piece first, and then you go to the field where it's 2 by 2 squares. And here's the second floor ceiling plan. That'll just be a drywall ceiling. Here's some detail of the stairs that we're gonna, the trim work for the stairs. I don't know if that's in your packet or not, but I'll try to zoom in, get you some better detail. So I think we were calling out about a 6-inch newel post, if I'm not mistaken, 6.5 inch, I believe it is. And then trying to find a period appropriate spindle and top handrail cap. Coming up the stairwell, again reusing and redoing that beaded ceiling type wainscoting, coming up halfway up the wall, and then it'll be drywall above. And we'll introduce a steel handrail. Here's some more of the wainscoting detail that'll be in the hallways. Here is the wooden trim work shown. Actually, the top portion is the detail for the tin ceiling on the ground floor. Again, like I said, it's about a 13-inch cove molding, kind of a crown molding on the perimeter. There'll be a flat area, then I think they call it a bead, and then it goes to the field area. Up in the upstairs on the second floor, we'll have we won't have crown molding, we'll have picture molding, which will be set down from the ceiling height. We were able to find samples of all the baseboards, and we'll have that matched. We'll have a knife cut, and if we need to order more baseboards and trim, we'll have that remilled to match the original profiles. I do have samples if you wanted to see those. And then lastly, we have if you want to pass around or not.
So that's physical materials that were from the building itself, that he's going to replicate.
The last drawing we have is of the windows on the second floor and the doors that we're proposing. And from the finished board, you can see the doors, the windows we're using. Here's actually a picture of the existing concrete floor, and you can see how it's in a diamond pattern and already stained color. So we'll polish that and reuse that same concrete floor. Here's some details on the pressed tin ceiling, skylights. Here's the original tin ceiling we found. And there's some representations of the spindles on the stairs. And here's the metal handrail going up the stairs. Anything else?
HVAC.
Oh, and we're proposing on the first floor to have exposed metal duct work. Because of the tin ceiling and the way the ceiling's gonna work, we think it's a better solution to have to expose the metal duct. But it won't be round, it's gonna be more of a compressed type, even rectangular.
Yeah,
Rectangular.
And painted.
And painted. And that's to satisfy the National Park Service, I believe.
Right.
On the second floor, we do have an attic space, so all that ductwork will be concealed and up in the attic space.
Lighting upstairs will be recessed duct, recessed cans.
No, we're gonna have exposed
You're
fixtures.
exposed.
Yeah, I think we have them shown.
Okay. The ceiling lighting? Okay, good. Fine.
And that pretty much concludes our discussion of the interior elements.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. So reviewing ARCT 23-01, staff's finding that this application is consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards with the plans that we reviewed in May 26, 2023. When repurposing the building, we look to see what evidence is left behind. On our initial visit on site, there wasn't much. The information that was prevalent in the historic fabric was shared with you tonight. There were some photos that were showing to show the kind of walkthrough of the building, first and second floor, and then some of the historic fabric is on this material board for your viewing. The project, once again, is for an ad valorem part 1. This is for pre-rehabilitation, the walkthrough of the existing condition, and then their proposed treatments as it moves forward. A lot of times they uncover a lot more artifacts as they uncover, some of the building's interior. There's not much left there that hasn't been discussed through our initial review. It's all been peeled back, and you saw a pretty good understanding of what is out in the field today. The earlier presentation had the meat of the exterior that you all reviewed and gave some direction, and this is more to focus on the interior. So I'll be here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, if that concludes staff report, do we have anyone for public comment? All right, with no public comment, now we will ask our questions. Go for it. Prokop?
Can you bring up one of the interior shots of the first floor that you presented?
Are you looking for a floor plan?
The photos, interior photos
Interior photos.
that you showed, yeah. You had one in particular that showed like one of the big bays that extended and showed the storefront that's there now, the wood infill panel and the side wall of the building and everything. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. A couple of questions on it. You can zoom in. Couple questions I had on this. How much of the second floor structure is original fabric? Have you made that kind of determination? How much of that second floor structure is is the old heart pine, 3x12s or whatever they are?
The framing structure, it does look original, but it was in very poor condition. This building, I don't think ever had a termite tent on it, so it's quite extensive amount of work has to be done to.
Okay. What roughly is the percentage of what the original structural fabric do you think you're going to be removing? And how much are you keeping of that second floor joist structure?
When you say second floor, you mean the ones you're seeing in this picture?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay. I'd say 80% of them have to be replaced.
And replaced versus, I guess, sandwiched or, made flitch plate beams out of, or do they have to be replaced? I mean, I guess you can make that judgment, obviously,
Right. Yeah.
with a structural engineer and what the condition of the wood
Right.
is.
They needed to be replaced, so.
Okay. Do you have, you said the CMU walls that are there now were not original.
Correct.
Are they holding up the second floor joists?
I think that was their intention, but what we found is they have no footer, and they have no tie beam, and they have no steel in them. They're hollow.
So what was holding up the second floor originally?
Oh, a wood frame wall.
So all the ground floor structure was all wood framed walls holding up the second floor? It was
Correct.
bearing wood walls?
Correct.
Okay. How do you intend to treat the interior of these exterior brick walls on the ground floor and the second floor? All the original exterior walls, how are you treating the interior faces of those?
Well, I mean, we'd like to leave a lot of it exposed, but if the need is there to drywall it, then we won't have to do that.
For instance, on this wall right here, that's why I asked you to bring this one up, they have numerous inset strips of wood replacing the mortar joints, which were to hold lath for plaster. So that's an indication that that wall historically was plastered on the interior face. Are you considering plastering the interior face of walls that were historically indicating to be plastered?
Well, what we found on the bricks themselves, we found no plaster on the bricks. So I don't know if they had a false wall in front of it. I mean, I do see the wooden strips through there, but we found no plaster on the brick. We haven't had to remove any plaster.
Okay.
So,
All right. Yeah, I mean, I guess historically, the public, quote-unquote, public walls on the inside faces of these buildings would be plastered where there were public access to offices and things like that, and then other places in the building that were warehouses or whatnot, they may have put those strips in, but they may have never plastered them originally. I'm just trying to get a feel for what your intention are, what your intention is. Do you intend, I guess, to insulate these walls, to put insulation on them?
no, not the
Okay.
brick walls.
Okay. One of the things I would bring up is that if you're going to rip out an awful lot of the second floor structure, or you already have, I don't know where you are in the construction right now. But I mean, that was all probably originally heart pine.
Right.
Old growth. Is there any, have you considered, and again, this is from my stand, I've done this in historic properties. These moldings that you pass through are beautiful old pieces of heart pine,
Right.
with, really tight grain and everything. Would you consider taking all the stuff that you're pulling out of the building and attempting to recycle that and have that wood be milled into new moldings or something else like that, to try to keep as much of that original fabric in the building, even though it's not suitable for structural purposes? Some of it can be reclaimed for
Right.
small gauge trim pieces or something.
Yes, so with that intention, we've actually, the ones we've removed, I paid guys to sit there and pull every nail out of them, and run metal detectors over them and all that.
Right.
With the intention of at some point, having them remilled
Okay.
and reusing them and use as much as we can in the building.
Again, for the wainscot, you know, to replace that wainscot, you can use some of this wood
Right.
to mill it into trim if you're going to have all the tools made to, you know, the knives made to cut new trim. It would be nice to see
Right.
as much of the original wood not be just tossed out and burned somewhere,
Right.
but to
Yeah,
be
we-
put back into the building.
Right, we don't have any intention to toss it out.
Okay, all right. And then the light wells, there are 2 light wells on the either side, either end of the building,
Yeah.
basically, and then the one main one in the center. The 2 light wells on either end of the building on the second floor don't look like they light anything up. Can you bring up the second floor plan?
Yes.
I was just confused as to what they were doing there.
I believe right now they're going to be lighting the restrooms.
Very important.
They lit up the restrooms and the old kitchen areas.
Okay, do you have the second floor plan there?
Yeah.
Please, thank you.
Yeah, this one may be a little less confusing because it doesn't have as much writing on it, but that was the light well, and it lit up this room, and it lit up this room. And there were actually windows here and here,
Okay,
interior windows.
okay. Yeah, I just couldn't see anything that they were lighting up because I can't read those windows in these in these plans here. They're not.
And actually, the finish on the inside of that light well was more beaded ceiling. So I'll redo that beadboard.
Okay. All right. I think that's it. Those are the only questions I had. I think also the recycling of that wood will go a great deal towards
Yeah.
making, you know, the SHPO happy and everybody else for the ad valorem taxes. Yeah.
Commissioner Myers, question?
Could you put that floor plan back up that you just had?
Sure.
So, and is there any knowledge, or sort of in a typical arrangement like this, was this this was not 4 apartments? I'm getting to the, I want to know how this was. It was a rooming house.
Correct.
There were 11 chimneys in here, so there were 11 rooms that were heated, you know. So not all of them, it seems, were heated. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, nope. Because I want to get to the sort of building that this was when it was built, because my impression is that it was for people of pretty modest means, and that they were, and the historic preservation consultant, could you speak to this?
Oh, well, I would say you're observing something that's probably likely. Yeah, it was almost like single room only, SROs, as they call them. Yeah, yes, it was a rooming house, and you know, considering its time period, you know, 1905, that's probably not unusual above commercial use.
And would there have been families in these single rooms, or?
We don't know. We don't really know.
We have
Yeah.
no.
I mean,
no,
we
there's-
haven't done city directory research.
Okay.
That would be possible, but that was not really part of our task.
So I guess that,
Could have been workers. I mean, we're supposing. Could have been cigar workers. As you know, this was, as Hamilton said, and as you all know, it was obviously the second cigar city for Tampa. Trying to be the first.
but single men or families, that's somewhat my question, but obviously it was very modest. The beadboard in the stairways is a pretty modest finish that was used for, you know, commercial dwellings and stuff like that. And so I've focused in on the sort of elaborate crown molding that you have in the tin ceiling. That's on the ground floor, which was a more public space.
And there's evidence of that.
But there is evidence of
Yeah.
it, okay.
Mhm.
All right, and as for the,
Did you bring any of that?
not that,
Yeah,
And-
there's some of the photographs showed the original pressed metal ceiling elements. There were just pieces of it, no large amounts, just scraps of it here and there that Hamilton was able to, obviously retain. Yeah.
okay, I have no further questions, thank you.
So we're fortunate to have the remnants to be able to use as models.
Commissioner Sutton?
When you move through the, if you will, the restoration replacement of the second floor framing, how is that going to affect all of this that's existing to remain?
How's it going to affect it? I mean, as we find damaged members, we'll have to replace them.
But I thought you were talking about damage up to 80% of those members?
Oh, no, not those members. I was talking about the floor joists.
The floor joists, yes.
Yeah, right,
So the floor of the floor that's holding up these walls
right,
is going away.
right.
So are we not looking now at, as well as a complete reconstruction of the second floor?
Yes, so it'll be a brand-new subfloor, a 3/4-inch plywood subfloor with new hardwood flooring going on top.
And new walls?
And not all new walls, no. Maybe 10% of the walls have to be repaired.
Am I missing something here?
Yeah, 'cause
So-
they're not
so-
gonna do it, they're not gonna do it all at once. They're gonna do a piece, and then a piece, and then a piece, and then a piece, and then a piece. So they're not gonna tear out 80% of the floor at one time, and then everything fall down.
You still
They're
have to
gonna do
hold
it
it up in a way
piecemeal.
that's
Yeah.
going to be very difficult.
It's gonna be interesting.
I mean, but it's the methodology of replacing historic structure, you know? It happens. You do it one beam at a time, one joist at a time.
I have no further question.
I have some questions here. So you mentioned removing the CMU walls that are downstairs, which are currently holding up this second floor structure.
Correct,
You're going to replace it with steel construction,
correct.
meaning we're going to have new beams and steel columns.
Correct.
So what is the plan? Are they going to be exposed? Are they going to be wrapped? If they're going to be wrapped, what is that wrap going to be? Is this new crown going to be wide enough to cover those beams? So I'm just trying to get an idea of what the plan is here for this new steel structure within the historic structure.
So yes, we'll have new steel I-beams running through the space. On the perimeter walls, will be 2 new columns that'll be wrapped in drywall and be hidden. In the middle of the space will be 2 new round columns. We'll introduce column wraps for bases and capitals to go on there. But the crown molding will be large enough to cover up the steel I-beam, so you won't be seeing the I-beam.
So can you show us again on your floor plan where those perimeter columns will be located in reference to those, if I remember correct, there were no walls there, so that's why I'm. Okay, so one's gonna be in your,
So
looks
there's
like
the center,
a
the 2
closet.
center ones. Those are the ones against the wall. You can see that.
Can you pull that up a little bit, please? Thank you.
So that's the one against the wall.
So the only
that'll be
two
wrapped.
wraps that
And
we're
then-
gonna see are on this rear wall here.
The rear wall, the front wall.
And then you mentioned you're going to, I mean, because the way it's drawn, I'm envisioning like literally a 4 or 6 inch spherical column.
Right. What we want to do is try to match the columns that are out in front of the building on the street side. We haven't found those yet, but if we can't find a structural column to replicate it enough, then we're gonna do a round column with a column wrap on it.
Okay.
And they may be buried by tenant improvement.
Which leads me to the other question I had of, you mentioned that these old walls were not placed on a footer, but these new walls or new column locations look to be roughly the same location. So I think I remember seeing a proposal of a pad footing that you're gonna cut out and place back in. And I just want to verify that I read the note correctly, that you're going to match the diamond cut pattern is the intent?
Correct. So I don't have a drawing of it, but in the field of the area, it's the diamond cut pattern, but around the perimeter, it's long rectangular pieces. So adding that footer element, we'll be able to cut in the exact line of the original line, and then when we replace it, we'll score it to match the original design.
Okay, so for all practical purposes, we won't really be able to know once it's done that it was ever done, is the
Hopefully,
intent?
that's my intent, yeah.
Staying structural for a minute, going back to Commissioner Sutton's question, 80% of the floor joist being removed. That floor joist is obviously holding up original flooring. So what is your intent for that original flooring that's existing?
The original flooring was a 3/4 inch heart pine floor, but it was nailed directly to the floor joist. They had no subfloor. On top of that, they had several layers of linoleum, and then someone added a sheet of plywood on top of that. But once the termites got a hold of it all, it was mushy, the floor. So it's our intent is to remove all that plywood, remove the termite-eaten hardwood floor, put in a brand new structural 3/4 inch, tongue and groove subfloor, brand new hardwood floor.
So the original wood flooring has unfortunately been
It's been removed.
eaten.
Yeah.
It's already been removed.
Yeah, it wasn't salvageable.
Okay. I didn't count, but my fellow commissioner said there was 11 of those stacks. Where are those fireplaces located within the floor plan, or are they gone at this point as well?
There were never fireplaces. It was just a clay pipe coming through the sidewall,
Okay,
and then it ran up through the chimneys. And those chimneys were within the exterior wall. They weren't freestanding within.
okay,
the
that's what I'm
space.
trying to, yeah, I was just trying to verify.
Yeah, there was never working fireplaces. They were just chimney stacks, vent stacks.
The joist placement on the perimeter wall, are those currently sitting on top of the wall, or are they sitting in a pocket?
The ground floor is wider than the top floor, where's the brick, so it sits on top of the wall and pockets, so it does both. But it sits on a 2x6 flat
Okay.
member that runs the length of the wall, and it sits.
All right. And then to clarify, because whenever he was asking the question about the wood in that one picture, those strips, I know they're wood, but boy, they sure look like they were brick. So it was kind of difficult to, is it brick or is it wood?
So those are
members?
kind of like a furring strip, kind of
Okay,
like
that's what, I
like
know
a
that's what
lath.
it is, but I'm just,
They literally take out an inch deep
That
portion
was-
of the mortar and shove in a.
and so that was my
wood
next
strip.
question, was it truly inset into the
was.
historic fabric of the
Yeah.
brick?
And they would use that as a nailer if they wanted to add shelving or
Correct.
furring or whatever they were going to do. They needed a place to nail to the brick.
I think that's all I have for now. Anybody else have any more
I
questions?
just have one last comment, something that I think I would like to bring to at least your attention. Excuse me, please. I'm looking at the entrances that we see along the street front, and this may or may not apply to the other entrances as they appear around your building. But this is just a general comment. I think you need to take a real close look at your compliance for accessibility and access.
Right.
Because I see strike distance issues. I see uneven step issues. There are a couple things here that could really mess you up fast if we don't bring that in right now.
Yeah, so I think we have contemplated putting, let me see if I can find the site plan. So this building was never EDA compliant in any
Oh, never.
way, shape, or form.
But now you touched it, you own it.
All right. So we are proposing to add a handicap stall here, this first space.
Mhm.
The problem with the back of the building, you actually have to step down to get into the building. So instead of adding a ramp or something inside the space, our thought was having the handicap stall here, they could come out and enter. There's a doorway right here. We felt that was the shortest distance and the least obstructive way to get into the building. If that answers your question.
Well, that's part of the question, but you have your storefront entrances too.
Right.
Okay, and it's not so much the change in level, but you have, if you will, the cramped space in the door issue. How do you access and actuate the door, both from the inside and from the outside?
Right. So I think the way we're proposing now, I guess we'll, as we get through permitting, we find out if there's an issue.
Mhm.
It may come up.
Thank you very much.
So that brought up a couple of questions for me. One, is the building going to be sprinklered at all?
It's not sprinkled now, so no.
Okay. And going back to the first floor tin ceiling, looking at the detail, it was kind of hard to tell, is that going to be attached to the bottom of the joist, or is that going to be a track system,
No.
acoustic type ceiling?
So we'll need to fur down the entire ceiling to get it on one plane and get it smooth.
But you're planning to fur on the bottom side of the joist?
Correct.
Okay. Because I also saw some plumbing and some other things there that I'm assuming are going to be removed
Right.
to enable you to keep that flat surface.
Right.
Okay. The only other question I have is kind of going back to piggybacking some of, or one of his, but on the interior of these buildings, the energy code that we have to fight these days makes some of the wants, if you will, the finishes very difficult to achieve. Have you had any discussion at this point to that extent? Do you know? Because, I mean, obviously I'd love to see you be able to utilize and be able to see that historic fabric of that brick on the interior. But energy code may tell us it may not allow that to happen. So,
All right. So we have spoken with a mechanical engineer who's working on drawings, and he's telling us he thinks he can achieve it, but
okay,
it hasn't gone through permitting yet, but that's the direction we're going.
good to hear. That's all I've got.
I have no further question.
Myers?
No further questions.
Okay. All right, you've got 5 minutes for rebuttal.
No rebuttal.
All right, with no rebuttal, we'll close the public section of this, start discussing among the commissioners.
Do we have public comment? No, that's already done.
Already done.
I personally see this as a continuation as to, from the certificate of appropriateness portion of this presentation. Greater detail, because we're dealing now with the interior. I think it's just as appropriately ready to go at this point in time and this point of detailing. There's lots to be able to be fleshed out and moved on forward in a strange, sort of an odd way. It's almost a shame we were going to be using that second floor for offices and not go to the SROs that we need so badly today. But I'm very certain the market's not going to be able to handle that very well in the first place.
Airbnbs would eat that up,
Oh, wouldn't they? They'd love you, yeah.
you know?
Can you imagine the fees?
Yeah, I mean,
Anyway,
I'm doing one over in Ybor right now, the same thing. And I think it's a valid market, but, you know, does that impact what this is?
no, not particularly at all.
They could be offices, they could be bedrooms, they could be an artist loft, they could be just about anything, I think. Just because they label it office, I don't think that means.
Oh, absolutely, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think there's still some potential flexibility in that coming forward. But I do think that this project is definitely on the right track, an appropriate track.
Hmm?
Yeah, the good news here is regardless of end use, is we've got an investor, developer, that's gonna take an old property. He's going to great lengths to try to restore it. Unfortunately, what's happened to this building is what's happened to so many others, is it's not been maintained through the years, and fortunately, it's still standing because it's masonry. If not, who knows, maybe it's imploded at this point. There's not a lot here on the inside left to save, so I commend them for trying to save what they can, taking nails out of moldings and getting paint refinishes off and whatnot. That is very, very difficult and time consuming. You know, again, I wish there was more fabric here that could be saved, you know, like the original floors and different things, but unfortunately it doesn't sound like it's there. So the good news for the developer is he's got a kind of an open canvas. I did hear the one comment about the plaster on the exterior walls. I mean, I kind of like the idea of leaving the lath strips exposed, and I don't know that I have a opinion one way or the other on which direction he goes there. I'm more interested in the end result of it looking like it would have in 1905 when it was built. And as a contractor, I have to say, some of the stuff I hear, you know, it's some very lofty goals. And, you know, again, I commend you for that. So, you know, it seems to be, you know, an experienced presenter, experienced developer that's looking to invest quite a lot of money in an area to save a building.
Yeah, I think the whole point of the ad valorem tax credits is to encourage to doing it right, you know, and the more accurately you do things, the better your chances are that you'll get those tax credits back, which, you know, everybody's being, you know, it's kind of crucial to the finances, to the pro forma for the project. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're going in the right direction. They're doing the right things. And they should be able to get the tax credits if they don't screw up.
Do we have anyone that wants to entertain a motion?
Move to approve the ad valorem tax exemption application, Part 1, for the plans presented at this public hearing in case number ARC T23-1 for the property located at 1902 North Howard Avenue for the rehabilitation of this property, because based on the facts in the record, the proposed project is consistent with the Secretary of Interior's standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings.
I will second that motion.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
You, sir, had a Gordian
All
knot.
right,
Good
before
luck,
we,
really.
before we adjourn, we need to make a motion to receive into the file all the documents and exhibits that were here tonight.
Do we have to receive all the staff approvals, prior staff approvals also? Go ahead.
I move that we receive into the record all documents and exhibits presented this evening.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Meeting's adjourned.